You know, Romanians have got very cynical. That comes from being lied to by previous governments and by the media, who are owned by private enterprise in many cases. Show the beauty of Romania to the world.
I mean, you have to start from Galați.
But we need people to have faith again in Romania. The Travel Channel broadcasting this film to 110 countries and translating it into 11 languages. And it will be the best thing, I think, as a tourist initiative for Romania ever.
Sounds like better than the government did in the last 10 years.
Put Romanian beer in the fridge and turn the fridge on so the beer's actually cold, you know.
Hei, stai un pic! Dacă apreciezi conținutul podcastului nostru, abonează-te pentru alte episoade interesante.
Salutări și bine ați venit la un nou episod din Podcastul de Vineri. Eu sunt Pana, alături de mine este Ion și alături de noi în acest episod, după cum poate v-ați dat seama deja, este Ottley. Ottley este producător, director, prezentator la Travel Channel, editor, copywriter, poet. Cred că putem să mai enumerăm câteva abilități pe care Charlie le are, dar probabil este cel mai cunoscut sau foarte cunoscut pentru documentarele, seriile de documentare, Wild Carpathia și Flavours of Romania. Ultimul din ele, chiar în timp ce discutăm noi, este în top Netflix în România. Îl considerăm pe Charlie ca fiind unul dintre cei mai mari ambasadori contemporane ai României în Europa și probabil în lume, pentru că documentarele lui au avut și încă au zeci de mii sau sute de mii de vizualizări. Așa că vom discuta în engleză. Episodul va fi subtitrat pe YouTube. So, first of all, Charlie, thank you for taking your time to talk to us today.
Cu plăcere!
Charlie vorbește puțin română, dar noi o să discutăm în engleză ca să fie totul mult mai fluent.
Puțin mai bine, da.
Awesome. So, Charlie, our first curiosity is when and why did you travel to Romania for the first time?
I came to Romania in 2011 at the request of a mate of mine called Paul Lister, who runs the European Nature Trust and is a very active conservationist. And I met him making a series called Flavours of Scotland. Because this Flavours of thing I've been doing for 10 years with Travel Channel. We did Flavours of Colombia, Flavours of Spain, Flavours of South Africa, Flavours of Greece, Flavours of Peru. And I was doing this, I made Flavours of Scotland, and I met Paul and he said, come to Romania and see what Scotland used to look like 500 years ago, before we cut down all the forests and before we shot all the wolves and you know, slightly trashed the landscape. So I was interested to see Romania, and I came out here, and obviously I saw all these vast mixed forests and bears in the wild and wolves and, you know, amazing historic villages, and I immediately fell in love with it, and I wanted to make a program. So we decided to make Wild Carpathia and do something that was a combination of travel documentary and also conservation film, which is an interesting mix because the two don't tend to go together. And the Travel Channel were a bit wary of it. They weren't quite sure about it because it wasn't the classic Flavours of series that I've always made in the past. But we did it, and they allowed us to do it. And we had just a shoestring. I think I got paid 9,000 euros for nearly a year of my time making it. But it was a pet project that we wanted to do to help, to try to raise awareness of the importance of protecting the forests, of preserving the historic landscapes, and show the beauty of Romania to the world, but also maybe raise awareness and highlight the fact that some of these incredible regions and landscapes are under threat at the same time, and we have to do more to protect them. So that was Wild Carpathia 1. And we were lucky enough to have Prince Charles very kindly offered to be in the film and agreed to be in the film. So we went to Scotland to showcase the difference, to contrast Romania with what Scotland looks like now, to give people an idea of the changes that happen to a landscape when you cut down all the trees. So we went and we interviewed His Royal Highness at his house in Scotland, and that really helped the film. And he cracked a couple of jokes, like the fact that he could trace his lineage back to Vlad Tepes, so he felt he had a stake in the country. And of course this got taken by the New York Post, Sydney Morning Herald, and everybody, and that really helped promote the film. So suddenly we had the Travel Channel broadcasting this film to 110 countries and translating it into 11 languages, and it became a big success. So that really kicked off my relationship with Romania.
Yeah, about that, what was Prince Charles like? I mean, I know he's related to Vlad Tepes in some weird way.
Yeah.
Was he like depicted in the TV shows, like sober?
Oh, look, I mean, you know, he's fantastic. He does so much for Romania. He absolutely loves this country with a passion. He has a number of charitable enterprises here that he's a patron of, like the Architects Ambulance, which goes around saving historic buildings that are on the verge of collapse. Because every year we lose hundreds of monuments in Romania because there's not enough money from the Ministry of Culture. They're not interested in saving them, like Baile Herculani, the Imperial Spa, which is on the verge of collapse, and many churches and, houses in villages. And what the Architects Ambulance does is it provides the workforce for free to those communities. So the communities still have to find the money for the raw materials, for the repairs, but they bring the team, and they are all volunteers, and they patch up the old churches or the castles or the buildings and save them from falling down. So that's an amazing thing that he's doing, and that is one of his charities. He has also an academy for helping train people in crafts and skills that are getting lost in the countryside that we need to preserve for tourism as much as anything. The tile factory in Aposh, making traditional tiles for people to put on the roof of old villages and houses, because once you start losing the beautiful old roofs in many places, whether it's Shitsa in the Marmureș or those ceramic tiles that you find in Saxon villages, you change the look of a community. And once it starts looking modern, tourists are no longer interested in going to see it. It's basically, culturally speaking, trashed from a touristic point of view. So these are all very important things. He's also got, I think, the Prince's Trust now in Romania, which is doing a lot of good. So it was lovely to meet him and to hear his enthusiasm for Romania, which is a country that I was busy falling in love with at the time. And it inspired me to want to do more and to come back and to do what I can to help. So, as a result of that, we made Wild Carpathia 2 and Wild Carpathia 3, and the government sponsored us to do this with the Travel Channel. And it sort of just built. We created a brand, and we kept finding more stories to tell and more places to visit and to show the world.
Yeah, talking about enthusiasts, listening to you, I don't know, you are probably more enthusiastic than many of our compatriots about Romania.
Well, I think there's that is partly the problem that these days, especially with the younger generations, Romanians have got very cynical, and that comes from being lied to by previous governments and by the media, who are owned by private enterprise in many cases. So they've got their own political agendas, and people have got very cynical that things aren't moving forward fast enough, that the roads are still in disrepair, that the hospitals aren't providing better services, that politicians keep pledging and promising things, and then they have these great scandals where there's corruption and mayors are put in jail and ministers of travel or tourism flee the country or whatever it is. And I can understand that frustration. And I've seen the marches in Bucharest and all around the country, with the corruption involved in illegal logging, for example. And I think people just do start to get a little bit jaded, because you don't know who to trust. If you can't trust your press and media, because they've got private interest involved in investing in them, and you can't trust the government, who can you trust? And so that, unfortunately, I don't think it helps, and people, a lot of young Romanians go abroad, because they can't see a way to make money in their own country or to have the quality of life or the standard of life that they want. I think it's changing now, and I think, you know, Romania does offer a lot of potential for tourism, for example. But we need people to have faith again in Romania. We need to have faith in, you know, in the new regimes that are coming along, to give the benefit of the doubt to people who want to make positive change, to give everybody a chance at least once, because let's face it, we're all innocent until proven guilty, even in Romania. And you know, to look a bit more positively at the future and try to build together towards that future. And I'm seeing a lot of things changing, and have noticed it over the last 5 or 6 years. People are caring much more about the forest. They're caring much more about holding on to their traditions and not seeing, you know, old houses as primitive so much, but actually seeing them as an opportunity for tourism, as part of their heritage, as part of something to preserve, to cherish, to restore, and to make money from as well. So, you know, it is slowly turning around, but that enthusiasm that you mentioned is been slow to surface, I think.
Well,
we know that you're one of these active, how do you say, workers on the ecotourism in Romania.
Yeah.
We know you own a ranch near Brașov, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say it was a ranch, but it's a house. Well, a couple of tumble down old houses and a couple of barns. But it's very. I mean, I don't have running water. I don't have an indoor toilet. I don't have a kitchen. So at the moment, I've got to get there is a spring. I've got to get that connected up to the house, and then we can actually have a bathroom inside. And because it gets quite cold, you know, you really don't want to be going outside at -20, and a kitchen and a hot water, you know, system, so we can make the place warm. And then we can be based up there, which would be an amazing thing to do. But it's quite a long-term project, and it requires, you know, a substantial amount of investment just to get those services, those things that you need. So I'm not sure how quickly I'm going to be able to move in there, but it's at least I've got it, and I'll gradually, you know, restore it, but keep it traditional, but make it, you know, inside comfortable and modern facilities and looking cool and chic, but still with the same exterior. So you see it, and it still looks exactly like one of the traditional houses that you see in the area.
Was it difficult to acquire that place?
Yeah, it was very difficult. You know, I had problems with the, you know, with the, first of all, getting the paperwork done and the bureaucracy and actually getting the money together. It took time. It took about sort of 6 months of back and forth to try to sort it all out.
Were you permanently living in Romania at that time? I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah, I have been. I mean, sort of not deliberately. It's sort of happened that way. My partner and I, we've been sort of mostly here for work, and popping back to England when possible. But those times have got further and further apart because there's been so much to do here. And you know, I came over in September, I think, last year, and was here till Christmas, and then I went back for a few days in January, and then I came back out, and I haven't left since. So I've been in Romania for, you know, this whole year basically.
I imagine the pandemic doesn't help
either. COVID, yeah. I mean, apart from anything else, it was safer to stay on lockdown in the mountains here in Bran, you know, right on the edge of Bicech. So it wasn't something that I wasn't in no hurry to rush back to England, which was going through a very, very rough COVID period at the time, and is back again now. Partly because they didn't lock down quick enough, and they didn't get on top of it. And Romania has actually been much more responsible, I think, and taken this pandemic more seriously than the UK, for example, has done. And so, you know, I'm still going to stay here, and we've got loads to do now, and then we've got Wild Danube to start at Christmas. So I'm not sure when I'm going to get back to England. I really think, you know, I'm you could say I'm a permanent resident now.
So you mentioned Wild Danube. What is that? Is a new project?
Wild Danube is our next. Yeah, it's our next feature film, and that's documentary rather. That's going to be shot from Christmas through till about July. And we've raised the funding necessary, so it's going ahead. I'm very pleased to announce. And it's going to be like the Wild Carpathia of the Danube Delta. And I've got, out of the budget, I've allocated funds to also promote the Danube Delta on BBC World News, which is the biggest English-speaking global news service. And people watch it all over the world. Something like 460 million people watch. And we're going to be promoting the Delta with a 1-minute film from the best of the footage that we made for the 1-hour documentary. And that's going to go out every day for a month. Across Europe, America, and the Middle East, with the Danube Delta being rebranded as the Amazon of Europe. So I'm quite excited by that. I think that'll do an awful lot to boost the right sort of tourism there and get foreign tourists, international tourists to come and spend their money and appreciate the beauty of the Delta, you know, because it has so much to offer, and yet it's not being promoted properly.
That sounds amazing. I mean, you have to start from Galați, because we're like right at the mouth of the Danube Delta. Yeah. I was reading some old newspapers, like they had a promotion, some newspaper that they've introduced old 20s newspaper or something, and there was an ad there which said that there was a ship going from Galați to New York, and that blew my mind. Like it's
amazing. We were down in Salina literally last week. And I never knew that Salina was the capital of Romania about 100 years ago. I thought it was always Bucharest. I had no idea that Salina was the capital. And actually also had the most expensive hotel in Europe, I think, at one stage as well. And now you go to Salina and it's really kind of downtrodden. It was bombed bits by the Russians. But there are still parts of it that are, you know, still intact. And I'm looking forward to being able to go there and show how the potential for tourism could be regenerated there, and that actually, you know, there's lots of things one could do to make it really nice and promote it as a tourist hotspot. So we'll see.
I found out about you from Bogdan here. He was like, one day we were chatting and he told me, dude, I saw this documentary about Romania as this Brit who walks around Romania on his motorcycle and he films himself doing stuff, drinking palinka. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What's the name of the show? And he told me it's like Flavours of Romania. And I saw it and then I got excited and we had to talk to you.
Well, you know what's weird? Let me tell you something. It's funny how, and I was having this conversation earlier with someone, that basically when you come up with an idea, it's either the right time for that idea or it's not. Even if it's the best idea in the world, if the timing's wrong, it just doesn't go anywhere because people aren't ready for it. We came up with Flavours and made it 3 years ago, okay? So at the time it was screened on TVR, it was screened on Canal D, it's been screened since on Digi World, Digi Life, and yet very little feedback. Lots of people didn't even know it existed, and especially younger generations didn't know about it at all. Now it's been on Netflix. You know, I have people writing to me, you know, from their school. Yeah, and going, wow, you know, this is great. And it's so nice that we've actually finally got it to a point where people are watching it and appreciating it and liking it. And yet, for all that time, it's been around and it's been there for people to watch, but it's people didn't know about it. They didn't know it existed. And I think, you know, we've reached a stage with this film where I'm thrilled that it's been seen by so many people, and it's been number 1, it's been number 3, I think it's number 5 now, but it's still in the top 10. Yeah. And the feedback's been so good, there's a real chance that Netflix might screen it around Europe. And what I've been asking everybody to do, and there's a link on Wild Carpathia Facebook site, there's a form that Romanians living abroad can fill in. Obviously, it doesn't work here because it's already on Netflix here, but if the diaspora can fill in the form and say thing they really want to see is Flavours of Romania, that form goes to Netflix, and if they get enough people doing it, there's a possibility that it'll be screened in Western Europe, it'll be put on in the UK, Germany, Spain, and there's millions of Romanians living abroad, and they've all got hundreds of foreign friends, and so if they all watch it, and they share it on their Facebook with their mates, you've got potentially tens of millions of people seeing 9 episodes on the beauty of Romania, and they'll all want to come. And it will be the best thing, I think, as a tourist initiative for Romania ever. So
it sounds right.
Well, I think we can fill some of those forums with a VPN.
Yeah.
Well, we have a few connections in diaspora. We'll send them the link. Yeah,
that would be very cool.
I think we can make that happen. Yeah,
brilliant.
Well, about Flavours of Romania, how many days did it take to film, or what was it like the scale of it?
We were filming for nearly 7 months.
Oh my God!
Yeah, around about 7 months. We started in March and we finished in September. So that gives you an idea. I mean, and that was a lot of riding that bike. I rode 20,000 kilometers around Romania in total.
Any flat tires?
Yes, actually, yes. I got a nail in the front tire, and it was stuck fast. Big, thick nail in the front tire, and the tire didn't go down. And I took it in for a service at Harley Davidson in Bucharest, and the guy there, Eugene, the mechanic, came out and he goes, "Charlie, you're one of the luckiest men alive." He said that you've been driving around with that nail in your tire for God knows how long. I'm amazed it didn't burst or blow up when you were, on the freeway. And I was doing, 120 kilometers an hour driving the bike, and if you lose a tire on a bike at that kind of speed on a motorway, you're that's it, you're finished. So that was quite scary, to know that I'd narrowly avoided that happening. But what doesn't kill you doesn't kill you.
Yeah. It's such an effort, I imagine. I mean, we were a month ago. We went to the western Romania, to Oradea.
Yeah, we spent our holidays there.
It was a trip with a comfy car, yet still 10 or 12 hours on the road.
It's a long way. I know. And Romanian roads are not great, so it does take time to get from A to B. The thing with us when we were filming those, we were staying in one area, so we would be doing, for example, the Moldova episode, or the Dobroja episode, and we would be only traveling a few hours maximum to get to the next destination each time. So it was reasonably easy. But as you say, I mean, if you want to go on holiday in Romania, even just to get to the coast from here in Bran, I mean, it's if you go on any sort of peak time at all, it can take you 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, but your effort is amazing with the bike.
Yeah, well, I just thought
very impressive.
It was fun to do it that way. I wanted to give it a slight sort of Top Gear feel,
Yeah.
Make it a bit light, make it a bit funny, engage people, make it a bit sort of alternative, because I think if you can show that you can reach all these places on a motorbike, like the Raven's Nest, which is miles down a dirt road, it makes people feel that it's a safe place to visit. So if they're watching it abroad and they see me traveling around on the bike, going down these tiny little tracks and things, they'll think that's probably a safe thing for me to go and do in my car, and they'll want to go, and it has a nice travel vibe to it. It's like a road trip. And I think that's a good way of presenting it. So if we do get commissioned to do Flavours 2, then I'll be getting the Harley out again, and we'll be doing it a bit more. So I'm hoping next summer we might be able to do a sequel, especially considering this one's gone down well. And I've got a whole list of amazing new places.
Yeah, there are many places to visit.
Yeah, I could carry on making these series for at least 4 or 5 seasons before I start scratching my head. Yeah.
What's your best memory from season 1, let's say?
Well, it's a bit like I guess it's a bit like people who own a boat. They say about owning a boat, there are 2 good days if you own a yacht: the day you buy it and the day you sell it. And for me, with Flavours, it was the day I set off and the day I finished. Because I was terribly excited, obviously, to start with, and very, very nervous, as you can probably see from the film. And then we had this huge adventure in front of us, and there were some wonderful moments, and it was the best thing I've ever done. It was so exciting and fun from start to finish. But the sense of relief when we were on the top of Raro mountain, filming that final piece of camera, and the wind was blowing and I had to do it about 20 times, to get the audio right. And the clouds the light was going in and the light was going out, and I was halfway through, would suddenly go dark, and then they'd have to change the aperture and we'd have to do it all over again. And I was standing there and oh my God. We finally got the take, and it was that moment where I'm like, yes, that's it. We finished. It's in the can, as we say. And then it was just a case of taking it all very carefully back on the hard drives, putting it on the edit suite and starting to make the shows. But that was a tremendous feeling of accomplishment, that achievement that we actually got everything we set out to get. So, that's the joy of filmmaking. It's a bit like being a hunter-gatherer. You go out and you stalk your prey and you catch it. And the edit process is bringing it back and preparing it for the table. And then you serve it up to your audience and you hope they're going to like it. Yeah.
As I understand, there's only like 3 of you in your film
Yep,
crew.
there's only 3 of us. There's myself, my partner Wana, who is just here, and
Hi, Wana.
Hi, Wana. Bună.
And we have Andrew Smo, who's our cameraman, and we had another cameraman as well called Alan Paul, who's English, and he's back in the UK. But since then, with Wild Carpathia and everything we've done since, it's just been the 3 of us. And it works very well because, because we're not a big team, we can spend the extra time we need to get all the shots we want. We're not on a really tight schedule because, if you have more people, you have a tighter budget, and you have to be much more rigid with your structure and your scheduling. We can afford to stay an extra day if we don't get what we need on the first day, and so it gives us the freedom, like as it did with Wild Carpathia, to go the extra distance to make it really as good as we can.
Well, to me it looked like you had like a 20-man crew behind the
I know
camera.
people say that. It's funny. It's a case of redoing the scene from a different angle, so it looks like you've got 4 people, but you've actually only got 2 cameras. So that happens a lot. So I'll do an interview, and there'll be a wide and a close, and then there'll be cutaways, and we may have to do it again, or take some shots of me nodding as if I'm listening to the person talking when actually they've gone home and we're still there. But that's the magic of television,
Yeah. Do you have to redo the drinking sequences?
I insist on I insist on that. It really matters that we get that absolutely right. So sometimes I have to, at great personal sacrifice, repeat those shots a lot. Yeah.
Well, how are the people when they had to be there for the we saw you cooking with all the mamahe and was Wana translating everything you were telling?
Very often, yes. Yeah, she was. I know a bit of Romanian, so înțeleg un puțin. I can usually guess roughly what the sentence is about. So, sometimes she'll translate, and sometimes I can get the gist of it. I need to just understand. If I understand the gist, then I know what my next question is going to be. If I don't, then obviously I have to check their answer before I go on and ask the next question and develop the interview. So it just depends.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Did you have any problems with people don't wanting to talk to you?
Well, everybody wanted to talk. The problem is that sometimes, when I got back and I listened to the interviews, I realized that they hadn't said as much as I thought they'd said. So when I thought I had a 5-minute interview, it ended up being 2 minutes. And sometimes when I had a 2-minute interview, it was so good I had to make it 5 minets. So until you're actually listening to it back at, base camp, you don't know entirely what you have. And that's fun. I mean, that's an exciting process. But because we cover enough with each feature, we know that we can make up shots if we need to, or we can strip down another feature to give extra time to that one if it's particularly good. And that's the sort of editorial decision that I'll make when I've seen everything. Because I have to know all the features. I have to see every shot. I have to see all the cutaways. I need to see all the establishing shots. I need to see all the scenery shots. and the interviews themselves for that whole episode before I know what are the really strong features that go in and what are the ones that we can strip down a bit and streamline.
And I guess there are hundreds of hours of filming?
Yeah, there are literally hundreds of hours. I mean, we shot over 1,000 hours of footage.
Oh.
Yeah, so that gives you an idea of just how much work there was, just literally to go through all the shots, every single shot, to make sure we could use only the best ones.
Yeah, I was watching this series. I cannot recommend it enough. I was watching it with my girlfriend, like after work at night, lazy on the couch and watching Flavours of Romania.
Yeah.
And she was like, where was this place all my life? Like, it's right here. It's like a few hundred miles or kilometers.
I know.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest joys of doing this, is that we've had people writing and going, wow, I didn't know my country had so many incredible places. And there was one guy that saw it when it first came out, a friend of Andrew's, our cameraman, and he was so excited. It was the Brancusi monuments in Târgu. And he got in a car the next day and drove from Călăraș to Târgu so he could go and see them for himself. Which is, that for me, it makes it all worthwhile. If there are people who are so excited and enthusiastic about seeing these places and they want to go and discover them for themselves, then we've done our job.
And then again, there are those places that we've already seen, and we're like, oh, we've been there. Yeah, we were so excited. And also we saw that, for example, in Alba Iulia, you were showing the gladiators fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're like, where was that when we were there? There was no gladiator fight.
No, I know.
And now we're curious to go back and see that fight.
Yeah, exactly. And these things are happening more and more. I mean, the Alba Iulia is a good example of a community that's really capitalizing on its heritage. It was a capital of that region of Dacia under the Romans, and it has a huge amount of history. And they've regenerated a lot of the buildings and the city and the old town, and it looks absolutely breathtaking. I mean, it looks like you're in Rome or something. And they've then put on shows and festivals and reenactments, and it brings in millions of tourists. It's an incredible place, and lots of people go there. And I think for the international market, it's also very good because it's not just going and looking at old buildings. They're brought to life by these kind of things that happen. You're creating more attractions. It's always about you want visitors to come, but don't just show them one thing. Show them a whole raft of different attractions and things that'll keep them staying there, and then the hotels have them for 2 or 3 nights, not just for 1 night. So we need to always find, and this is another thing for hotels to bear in mind, when people come and stay, find activities for people to do. Get them out mountain biking or horse riding or to a bear hide or to go and see some churches or to see a castle or to go hiking up a mountain. Find activities, because the longer people, the more people see that there is to do, the longer they're likely to stay. And obviously they spend money while they're doing that. So it helps boost the local economy.
And as you are saying, now I think it's the perfect timing because of COVID and people not going outside Romania for
now it's been really good. This year has been amazing for domestic tourism outside of the big cities. I mean, obviously it's been disastrous in Bucharest and places, but outside in the countryside, in many places, they've had busier years than they've had for 4 or 5 years. And I've spoken to hoteliers who've just been booked up solid. They've been completely blocked, and that's great news. And I'm so glad that's happened. And we did our Redescoperă Romania campaign with all the national channels, because when we had our BBC campaign that was running abroad, which was Romania Journey to the Wild Side, and we were trying to sort of rebrand the country a bit for an international audience, we also had Digi Network, TVR, Antenna 3 and Pro TV, who all very kindly gave us free airspace every day for our Romania Redescoperă campaign, and that I think did something to help as well. But that's fine for this year. My worry is that next year, when it's open again and people are free to travel, a lot of Romanians are going to go abroad, so that domestic boost won't happen in the same way that it's happened this summer. And if we don't bring foreign tourists here and we don't promote Romania abroad, they won't come in and take up the slack. So, people who don't know about Romania still won't come, but all the Romanians who've been traveling domestically this year will probably decide they want to go somewhere like Greece next year. And so there could be a big economic fallout. That's why we've had this campaign with Brasov, again on the BBC for 3 months, to show the beauty of Transylvania and Brasov County to a global audience, and hoping that when people are booking their holidays, as they do now in September, October, for next spring, next summer, they'll consider Romania as a viable option, because long-haul flights are going to be off the menu for a bit longer, even when the current crisis is over. But short-haul flights like to here will potentially be an option. So I want to try to find a way to say to people, okay, don't go back to the same old places, Spain, Italy, whatever. Come here to Romania and look at all the amazing things you can see and come and do. And bring international tourists here in big numbers, and to see the beauty of this country. And I think that has to happen for next year as well. We need to try to assume everything will be all right and that people will be traveling, and we've got to grab them now. So we bring enough tourists into the country to help sustain the business and the industry, because it's going to be a very tough winter.
Have you sought support from the government or from some officials?
We are talking to the Ministry of Tourism, but they have had a very tough time themselves because they've had all their budgets taken. I mean, literally all their budgets taken, frozen and reappropriated because of the pandemic. So there's not been anything much they can do. And I do sympathize, because obviously they're frustrated about it as well. And everyone's saying, oh, well, what are they doing? And, they're not doing very much. But actually, all those funds that were there for, promoting Romania, for international travel fairs and things like this, have gone to mitigate the current pandemic. And so it's not easy at the moment working with them, because there's not an awful lot that they can do until this is over. So we've just sort of got on with finding private funds and working with companies and sponsors that have come on board with the campaigns we've been doing, and for example for the Wild Danube project. And because we've got a bit of a name and people know that we're going to do something good and they've seen the previous stuff we've done, we've had a relatively easy time finding the funds to move ahead with various things. So I'm hoping in a year's time we'll be able to do a lot more and work with the Ministry of Tourism to really to do a big international campaign with the press, with the TV channels, international media, and continue the rebrand that we've been doing this year.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the accommodation industry is prepared for foreign tourists?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there are plenty of places that are, and that have opened up recently that are good. I still think there's a lot of guest houses and small pensions and hotels that don't offer a sufficiently high standard of accommodation and food. And that's a problem, because if you've got 1 million foreign tourists coming and staying in cheap pensions and guest houses, and they get a cold breakfast and they sleep on those bobbly sheets that once Bunica always had, the ones that make you sweat, and they're made of not nylon but some sort of manufactured fabric, and you have a hot and sticky night, and then you have a cold breakfast with a bit of cheese and a bit of cold processed ham and some of that toast bread that you get pre-sliced from the supermarket. People will go away having had a lousy breakfast, a very uncomfortable night, and then they might go and see some castles, or they're walking or whatever, but they'll be overtired and they'll be looking at everything through a dark lens. And then the danger is they go home to their friends and they say, how was your trip to Romania? And they tell all their friends, don't go, because the services are rubbish and it's primitive. And then that's that million people, that's 10 million people who don't come the following year. So we have to have a basic standard, even in the smaller guest houses and pensions, that actually enables, a sufficiently comfortable stay and experience for foreign tourists. So we're working on making a sort of guideline film, a module, a PDF for those small hotels, to give them a kind of list of do's and don'ts and things that will help raise the standard without a big spend. So they won't need to spend a lot of money, but just have cotton sheets, make sure the air conditioning works. If there is no air conditioning, make sure you can open the window and there's a mosquito net over it so you don't get bitten all night long. Make sure there's some soap in the dispensers. Put Romanian beer in the fridge and turn the fridge on so the beer's actually cold. Simple thing, but it doesn't happen in a lot of places.
Where will people be able to find those guidelines or the PDFs?
I will have an announcement about that in the next few weeks, hopefully. I'm hoping that we've raised the funds to do that as well, and if we have, then we'll forge ahead with that. I'd like to have it done before we start working on Wild Danube. So ideally, we'll have that ready for Christmas as a sort of Christmas present to the hotels. And these are just really simple fixes, but there's stuff with the rooms, there's stuff with the general hospitality, with the menus, with the breakfasts, just really easy things that they can get right. And if they do, it'll contribute to the quality of that experience for foreign tourists and for domestic tourists as well,
So basically, you've noted down all the things that bothered you on
I have noted down all the things that have bothered me, and all the things that I think that constantly places get wrong. And I mean, let me, as I said before, let me give you that example of attractions, right? You go to stay in a place, and what do you do? What is there to do in that area? Very often, there's a lot of hotels that don't even have a guide to what you can do locally. For example, there might be some beautiful caves, or there might be an amazing ruined castle in a forest, or there might be a hot spring, or something like this. And there's very little in terms of offering those services to your guests. So people will come and stay the night and they don't know about any of this, so they don't go any further, they don't stay any longer. And you could have had them for 2 more days if you showed them all the things they could do in the area, but instead they're gone the next morning. So this is one aspect of running a business where you're adding value, and you've got to keep finding ways to add value to the experience of your clientele, of your guests. So they remember it, because when you come back from a place, it's not just about the landscapes and the monuments you see, it's about the interaction you have with the people there, and it's about the comfort and the experience of the places you stay in. And if we can raise that standard, at least have a bottom line, I think we'll do an awful lot to help tourism in this country.
Yeah, it sounds like better than the government did in the last 10 years.
I don't want to set ourselves. I mean, we just want to help, and I hope very much that the new government, if they're allowed to do things and they have a majority to be able to do things, because it's very hard if you don't have a majority to do anything. But if they do, I'd very much like to see them doing initiatives to boost tourism and working with them to help do that. And I think there's a lot of potential for creating more films and for promoting abroad. And we make ourselves available. We are here and we want to help. So we'll see what happens, but fingers crossed.
I just hope that the business owners care about your checklist and well,
it's more of guidelines than just a checklist, but it's things that if you look at it like this, we have to talk in terms of money. Okay, now, do you want repeat business or do you not? Do you want people to come back? Do you want them to recommend your place to their friends, or do you want them to give you a rotten write-up on TripAdvisor and trash your place online and go away disgruntled, miserable and unhappy and never come back again? So this is all about financial benefits. This is about helping people ensure that they get repeat stays. It's about helping people ensure that their guests become ambassadors for their establishment, and also that they can make a decent amount of money and even charge a little bit more to provide better services. I mean, if it's a few extra euros, no one's going to mind. What they mind about is actually having a good time while they're there.
It's funny, I saw the same thing, the same evolution in the restaurant industry. When I was young, almost all the restaurants had bad food, and only a few of them were renowned to have good food. But over the time, some of them actually, most of them are really good now. They offer quality, good food, which they didn't before. And I think they've realized that people come back if you offer them something good, like a nice experience.
It's a no-brainer. It's not rocket science. There's so many places you go to, and you walk in and they don't smile. and you ask for something extra and they look at you like you're an alien, because we don't do that, and there's no effort to accommodate people. And I just think it's the hospitality industry. Let's not forget that means you're a host, and if you're a host, you want your guests to feel happy, liked, welcome, comfortable and satisfied. And these are things that should be a priority to any hotelier, any guest house, because if you do that, they're going to give you a good tip. So you're going to make more money from your tips. You're going to make more money from them recommending you, and you're going to make more money because the people are going to come back and stay again. If you don't care and you ignore them and you just treat them like, yeah, pay and off you go, you're never going to be a successful business. And people need to remember this. It's a business, and that business is people, and it's making those people feel good.
Yeah, and referral is still the best type of promotion.
Referral is still the very, very best way of getting in new business. So, people also can write up on TripAdvisor what a fantastic time they've had. And that can do a huge amount for bringing in more bookings. And so it's really, as I said, it's a no-brainer. People need to understand that this is not just something you do for esoteric purposes or as an academic exercise. It's actually something you do to make more money, to boost your business, and to be more profitable and more successful in the future.
Is it in your guide the place has to be Instagrammable or something like that?
Well, what is Instagrammable, really? a
nice background like you have right now.
That just happens to be our Shora, where we do most of our work. Obviously it's very nice if people can come and take a selfie of themselves without seeing too many pipes and, really, really ugly backgrounds. Yeah, sure. It's more about, even if it's small, and even if you haven't got much money and you've got a low-cost place, a budget place, you can still do a few things to make it stylish and make it nice without spending a huge amount of money. It's just thinking out of the box a little bit. What are your unique selling points? What can you offer people? Maybe if you haven't got a fantastic building, then you get an amazing menu. Maybe you specialize in a certain type of cuisine, all of these different aspects that will help. Anyway, that's what I've got to investigate and work on for the next couple of months.
Well, our daily jobs is making websites, so if you need a hand, just let us know.
Yeah, that could be very helpful. Yeah, well, we'll certainly bear you in mind for that. We also have another project which we need to raise money for. It's more of a long-term project, which will be a way bigger budget. But we want to create a portal, a web portal for kids and for teachers to put eco studies at the heart of the school system in Romania, to put conservation onto the school curriculum. So we need to make a syllabus from year 1 upwards, for kids to learn about the importance of nature to start with, the oceans, the rainforest, the etc. And then as they get older, man's relationship with nature, how we're screwing that all up, global warming, all the problems of deforestation, etc. And then systems-based, solution-based thinking. So ecotourism, sustainable management of forests, all that kind of thing. And every school has an hour a week that they can allocate to any subject they want, even state schools. And we create this portal. We have a syllabus for each year. So they have learning programs, they've got homework suggestions, all this kind of stuff. And this curriculum we offer also for the teachers. And we have another door in the portal where the teachers can come in and they can have training, receive training for teaching eco-studies in schools. So once that's up and running, and we also have Wildscreen as a charity with the BBC. They have all the David Attenborough films available for schools and for kids to be able to watch for learning. And we can put those linked onto the site. And we can have teacher training courses there, so the teachers can learn to teach the syllabus we provide them. And then we offer that for free to all the schools and to the Ministry of Education to use it as a tool. And I think if we can actually, at least give every child in Romania 1 hour of eco studies every week, then we can have a much, much better chance of, first of all, of of sustaining tourism in this country, because people care about protecting the forests, sustainably managing the resources, the biodiversity, ecotourism, these kind of things, which is possibly, part of the future for Romania. If we don't have those things, Romania is going to be in a lot of trouble. But also, it'll help boost local businesses. They'll see how they can make money from tourism, and they'll connect with charities that are doing amazing work. And there's a lot of potential, and every child will have some respect for nature. They'll grow up caring about the natural world around them, invested in it, and therefore less likely to contribute to its demise.
Are you running an NGO in Romania?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not very good at bureaucracy and paperwork.
It sounds like you have a lot of great ideas, and maybe a team of volunteers could help you with this.
It's a possibility. We were thinking, we did go down the route of setting up a Wild Carpathia charity at one stage.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to do it, really, and also the amount of time and energy in terms of actually sort of how you work it all out logistically with paperwork and everything.
Yeah.
It frightens me. I'm a creative person. I'm not a bureaucratic person. So I've tried to avoid that and worked instead with other charities that are doing aspects of a kind of overall vision that we have. For example, working with the Architects Ambulance and, working with the Mihai Eminescu Trust at one stage. So yeah. There's charities that we support, but no, I mean, there is the potential to have a charity, to have an NGO where we can push forward these kind of projects, and it may be something that we do in the future. But I'd need to have someone who was able to manage it and run it from that clerical perspective, so we can get on and do the stuff that we're doing at the moment, which is the initiatives themselves. Talking
about crazy ideas, do you still practice wedding poetry?
I don't anymore, because I gave that up when I left England. Well, actually, I gave it up a bit before. I was at one stage the only wedding poet in Britain, in the country, and I was doing commissions all over the country, all through the season, very often dressing up in a doublet and hose like Shakespeare, and reading a poem specially tailored for the bride and groom. So I get the bride ringing me up wanting to because brides traditionally don't give speeches in the UK, although that's changed now. But they wanted to maybe have me do the speech, or the best man couldn't think of what to say, or, they just thought it would be a fun thing to do. So I would interview the bride or whoever commissioned me, the best man or the groom sometimes, and get their story of how they met. What are his embarrassing little habits? What are her embarrassing little habits? What are the in-laws like? Where did they go on holiday? When did they first decide that they were going to get married? Did he go down on one knee? How did he propose? All this kind of stuff. And I put it into this 2-3 minute long poem, ballad, if you like, and with sort of perfect rhyming couplets, or then they would either read it themselves, and I'd get it printed on a scroll, and I'd send it to them, or they'd ask me to come and perform it. So I would turn up at their wedding, dressed, as I said, like Shakespeare, and I'd roll out the scroll like this, and I would serenade all the wedding guests. Sometimes at big weddings, sometimes at small weddings. Once for BBC, Channel 4 show called The Big Breakfast, where this couple were the first couple to get married on the London Eye in near Waterloo, and I was up there in the cabin with them reading the poem, which was very funny.
I must imagine that's how you gain Oana's heart. I mean,
well, I would be lying if I said that I haven't written her a few love poems and sent them off. And I don't know. Did you like my poetry, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I think you quit too early, because you might have caught like some royal weddings. Yeah.
Interestingly, I did get asked to do by who was it? By BBC Radio, to do the Charles and Camilla wedding. So I recited that in Windsor, just outside the castle walls, and I did get commissioned by the Sun and the Daily Mail, respectively, to do Edward and Sophie and Posh and Bex. So I've done a few celebrity weddings, but the reason I stopped doing it was basically I got involved in doing poetry for the BBC, for radio shows, and on the news that week. So I would be brought on as the news poet, summarise the week's news in rhyming couplets and with comedy and humorous verse, and that was a really cool thing because loads and loads of people heard that, millions of people heard that. Whereas doing the wedding poems, I'd write it for the couple. It was all very nice and it was really lovely to do, but then they just ended up on someone's mantelpiece and they got forgotten about. And I wanted to write things that actually had some resonance after the event. So I started doing more writing for myself and did my first book of poetry, which was Cautionary Verses and Ruthless Rhymes, and that sold 10,000 copies hardback, I think, and that went well. And then I started doing the radio and the TV thing for poetry as well. But then again, we got sidetracked because I was a columnist for a newspaper at the time, and that column got turned into my first TV series, which was Weekend of TV, and suddenly found myself traveling around Britain doing weird stuff, a bit like, in a way, a bit like Flavours, but just stuff for the weekend, where people can go for the weekend. So they come back to the office on Monday and they've got a cool story to tell their mates. I learned to scuba dive. I went paragliding. I learned to I got my paraglider's, my pilot's license or something, or I went single malt whiskey tasting on Islay, something like that. And so when they get into the office on a Monday morning, they're not the boring one who stayed at home and watched telly. So that was Weekend of TV, and as a result of that, then we got the Travel Channel commission to do the Flavours of, and I was just too busy. I've been travelling the world for 10 years after that, from 2000, so there wasn't much time to be doing wedding poetry. So I do the occasional one for friends, even now, but as a wedding present, not as a commercial enterprise.
Have you been to a wedding in Romania?
I've been to many weddings in Romania.
Oh.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I went to one in the Maramureș, with Leshe when we were filming with Grigore Leshe when we were filming Wild Carpathia 3, and that was amazing. So colourful and fantastic, and the traditions, the outfits, the vast quantities of palinka, the music. It's like a festival. It's a real celebration. It's a much more joyful experience to me in a way than the rather boring somber weddings in churches in the UK where everyone's very polite.
And imagine the traditions are different here, and 10 kilometers down the road, there's another story.
I know. That's another TV show that I would love to make one day, which is the cultural diversity when it comes to weddings. Just to go around the country and attend a wedding in each region and see how they differ. Well, basically, it's a bit of an excuse to go and party with loads and loads of people.
Yeah. You should prepare your liver.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But it would be nice. It's a great thing. It's such a colourful thing to film, and I think it would be of enormous interest to the foreign travellers, to people abroad, to just see all the cultural diversity that this country has. Because Romania, one of its USPs is that cultural diversity. You've got Lipovans, you've got Aromans, you've got Hungarians, you've got Saxons, you've got Roma, you've got Romanians, you've got everybody. So many different people, and so many different traditions, recipes, music, costumes, crafts, all of it. And it's this big cultural chorba. And that from a tourist perspective is amazing. It's a gold mine. You can come to Romania and you can see all these incredible cultures existing under one flag, and that I think is something we need to do more to promote.
Well, Charlie, thank you very much for the past hour. It was
my pleasure.
Truly pleasure to meet you and talk to you about your projects. Well, if you pass through Galați or maybe settle a few days here, don't mind to text us.
Don't be a stranger. We'll hook you up.
No, we won't. Absolutely. If we're in Galați, be sure I will be giving you guys a call. We'll go and have a beer or two.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie.
To tell everybody listening, I just like to say, if they've seen Netflix, our show on Netflix, and they liked it, please click like on Netflix, because that will really help with promoting, getting Netflix to incentivize them to put it on abroad. And if you haven't watched it, watch it and tell your friends.
I didn't like it on Netflix. Let me find my phone.
Excellent, because it's easy to forget to click like, but if you watch the show and you've enjoyed it, if you hit that like button, that goes straight back to base, and Netflix, the people in the office go, this seems to be quite popular. Loads of people are liking it, so that will help the cause.
Thank you again, Charlie.
And to Romanians living abroad, we have on our Wild Carpathia Facebook page the link which you can click on to request to see Flavours in whatever country you live in, and that would also be an enormous help, because the more requests they get, the more chance there is that
it will be in the description
agree.
of the video on
Brilliant.
YouTube.
Okay, mate. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.